Hello, people. It's your boy Ambassador. Ambassador doing his thing, giving his opinion. It's just my opinion. As usual, I say let's have these conversations to build a critical mass. Let's like, share, subscribe, push out these thoughts, give your opinion. Hopefully, people give their opinions too, and then we're just building it by thinking. Yeah. Today, I'll be talking about the African curse of resources.
The green energy revolution has a black African human cost. It's go green, but the deficits that are being left are entire populations in Kolwezi. If you look at it, you can see it from space. The place has been turned into a sulfuric acid pit where people, babies are now being born with birth defects, big heads, cleft lips, dying before the age of 2, dying before the age of 3 because the women are eating fish from the rivers. The rivers are now polluted with sulfuric acid so that they can mine this cobalt, this coltan, this lithium, all of these things, this nickel that they need. And it's one of those things where in 10 or 15 years time, it's going to be, whoa, did you know that was going on? Like it's still one of those things that it's a sub conversation. It's a niche conversation.
On a need to know basis.
It's right. It's like a hush hush. We don't really speak about that because how can you predicate your entire success of this technological revolution because data has now surpassed oil in terms of value at the same time as not highlighting the fact that you are killing people to do this? And where Tim Cook, who's the CEO of Apple, recently said, I believe it was an interview with Dua Lipa, that they are doing their best to make sure that no minerals are coming that are mined by children, and there's no conflict minerals. Well, how do you know when you've never been? And how do you know when the organizations that you have created to abdicate yourself, to absolve yourself of these things, are funded by the same organizations that are creating the problem? And it's just like problem, solution. They have the solution and their solution is a lie. And it's never going to stop until we change the way that we deal with Congo, as in the rest of the world. The diaspora need to speak about it, and what we've been saying and what we were saying when we started collaborating with different organizations is, how do we make Congo in 2024 become the discourse that was the 1970s apartheid in South Africa? How do we make it like no more? Because every single day we see the Jews saying never again about the Holocaust, but this is the largest loss of life since the Cold War. So when are we going to say never again Congo?
I think that lots of videos online, most of the time when you put it, is going to bring you maybe Sierra Leone and their diamond story, Congo and their riches, Rwanda and their own story. But I'm looking at it at a very bigger perspective at Africa as a whole. First, I feel like historically, Africans were less savage, although we're called the Dark Continent, but we're less savage. When I look at some of the movies or some of the wars and the barbarians slash violence that I saw in Europe, I don't think Africa has recorded some of that level of violence. But that also made us less calculating because we had less level of, should I call it, savagery. So we're not even ready or built to deal with that level of intensity of calculative, kind of manipulative. Yeah, I'm looking for some of those words not to be too harsh, but that's what it is. So because we had all of these blessed our resources, we're just chilled. And when the external world hit us, and they're still hitting, we were not ready for it, and we were swept under the rug of slavery, colonialism, neo-colonialism, and the story goes on. Also, we take things for granted as Africans because we just feel like, okay, that these stupid things we solve, like, yeah, when I chop my one pan, I drink my one bottle, like goes on. That's what we have been dropping the one pan and drinking the one bottle all these years. And is this really life? Is life really going on? But the grand scheme of things, when your child is now sick and dies, you forget that, okay, yeah, you ate your one bottle, you drank your one bottle, you ate your one plate, you sacrifice the health system that have made your child survive. When they die, eat your one plate and still drink your one bottle and then live with it, because that's the reality of those things. But we take so many things for granted. You hear a lot of things of like as usual, I'm passionate about this thing I'll be talking about, and somebody will be like, yeah, we met those problems, we'll die and leave them, we cannot fix it. Those are those stupid statements of taking life for granted, which does not help us as Africans. So I always say these things, I might say with some harsh tone just to provoke that thought, or to get you thinking, or to get you to react. It could be negative or positive, but I want you to react. I want you to think about those things here. So Africans had the issues of taking it for granted. I call it also we're stupidly generous in every sense of the word. I don't want to go into the details for my own reasons, but I feel like Africans were stupidly generous. We opened the doors for everything, exposed our cultures, our religions, our traditions, our everything, and then competition, as I always put it, competition was able to strike because they wanted what we had. So, also, why should I always ask this question where at times I use the analogy of the referee being part of the other team, but another place I put it like, why should someone solve a problem if they benefit from that problem? Then it's not a problem for them, it's a problem for you, it's not a problem for them. So when some of the things which affect us and we think that religion will solve it, NGOs will solve it, international, no, it's a problem for you, it's not a problem for them. And you dig deep enough, maybe that your problem is benefiting them. So why should this person solve this problem if it's not a problem for them? That's one of the aspects. We'll zoom into the tragedy of Congo, right? I can do 3 hours discussion when it comes to Congo, but I just feel like every black man on this world or in this world, when you listen to the story of Congo, you should be ashamed of yourself. Congo is such a tragedy which, too bad, our books will tell us about various genocides and things happening everywhere. Congo, we just brush through it like one of those lessons of, yeah, it happened, then what? We don't even have the details. But thank God for the internet now where we get to get things which school could not give us, and we get to know some of those facts which were intentionally hidden from us. So I don't want to go into the detail of Congo and some of the neighboring countries that are facilitating some of these things. I always say most of the problems in Africa are usually facilitated by an African. And that's just going to explain some of the other things I've highlighted about the weakness of the African. But I think if you watch this particular video where they're talking about the curse of resources and all of those things, you most of the time, some people, I mean like the large majority of people, when I start going to these deep conversations, they're like, I did not know about this, I did not know about it. Yeah. After you watch this video, you no longer have the excuse to say you don't know about some of these things. Google it, you don't have that excuse, you have a phone in your hand. Whatever you're using to watch this video, you can use to Google the fact what's happening in Congo, what's happening about the resources in Africa. When you watch those things, start to think about it at my own level, even just by conversation, even just by liking, sharing, commenting about this thing, it's a step in the right direction. But what am I doing to correct some of these things? Because it is outright wrong. It's not just wrong for the African race, it's wrong for the human race for things like this to be happening. Some people don't even know about it. I remember when I was studying Europe, there's so many things I'll bring up, and my European classmates are like, they're scandalized. You see them getting read. You realize like they are so ashamed / hurt / surprised that these things are happening, but it's real. And it starts by us, the Africans, living these things, our reality, talking about it. At times, even the critical mass out there is not aware of some of these problems. It's just that 1% which is benefiting from the problems that is enabling that problem. But if you can enlighten the critical mass in Europe and in America, that this is what people are suffering. I remember one time diamond was a problem. They said blood diamond, nobody wanted blood diamonds. Just because everybody was talking about it, rappers, Kanye sang about it. So, guys, as usual, let's go with the conversation. Like, share, subscribe, take it to Facebook, take it to WhatsApp, take it to your classroom. Guys, I want us talking and thinking about these things. As usual, it's your boy Ambassador, I'm out.
Just my opinion.